Hello everyone and welcome to Sunup. I'm Lyndall Stout. We have a very special treat for you this Thanksgiving weekend, a look back at some of our Sunup favorites. But first, a two-part Cow-Calf Corner segment, beginning with talking about the importance of good nutrition. Here's Dr. Mark Johnson.
Good morning, Oklahoma, and welcome to Cow-Calf Corner. I'm Mark Johnson, and this week we follow up and based on some feedback and questions we've had from producers on some of the recent articles that we've done and talked about analyzing feedstuffs on a per unit of crude protein or energy that we're actually purchasing. We take a little closer look at what goes on in our cow herd, or individual cows for that matter, relative to their daily energy and crude protein requirements as they go through different stages of production. We always talk about in cow herds, there's two primary things that influence the nutritional requirements of cows, those being the sheer size or biomass or the mature weight of the cow, and then the level of milk production she actually gives. But I think it's worth mentioning the stage of production that she's actually at. As we'll talk about today, we'll see that has a pretty dramatic impact relative to that level of milk that she gives once she goes into lactation. It's important to think about what a cow actually needs, because if there's two things we can do to rob a cow-calf operation of profit potential, it's overfeeding and underfeeding. And so as we take a look at the 1,300-pound cow, normal weather, so we've not got climate influencing actual needs, making the assumption that we've got an ample supply of good quality water, and we know we're probably feeding some kind of a mineral supplement ad lib, the energy and crude protein requirements of a 1,300-pound cow in the middle third of pregnancy, there's actually 1.64 pounds of protein and about 11 pounds of energy in the form of TDN. Now, as we've discussed in recent weeks, cow, there's a good chance she's going to be able to meet those nutritional requirements on some kind of average quality hay or still just some kind of a decent quality pasture. But as we look at that same cow and think about her going into the final trimester of pregnancy, when we've got some extra growth and development of a fetus going on inside of her, that same cow actually moves up to a 1.84 crude protein requirement each day, and the energy need goes up to 13.3. Now that's some increase. But when she actually calves and begins to milk, we now take a look at some numbers that is when we really see that spike in the crude protein and energy requirements of that cow relative to the amount of milk that she gives. That cow, if she peaks out giving about 25 pounds of milk per day, those first 90 days post-calving, she's going to move up to 3.4 pounds of crude protein a day that she needs, and that energy requirement is going to spike up to 19.3. Now that's at 25 pounds of milk per day at the peak of lactation. If that cow's giving 35 pounds of milk per day, she's actually going to need 4.2 pounds of crude protein and 22.2 pounds of energy. So through the normal ebb and flow of a production cycle, the same cow, based on how much milk she's genetically programmed to give, we see a lot of ebb and flow. We see some pretty serious spikes in what she actually needs. Why is this worth talking about this time of year? We want to take into account the stage of production we're at with our cow herd, when we're going to start calving. We know we'd like those cows at a body condition score 5 to 6. When they start calving, that's going to ensure that they've got the energy reserves that permit them to breed back quickly, calve again, and wean off a calf every 12 months. I hope this helps, and thanks for joining us on Cow-Calf Corner.
What you see going on behind us is something called Reality Check. It's a really cool program put together by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service, where they just kind of arbitrarily give kids a station in life with a salary and all this stuff, and they have to go around and make budget.
Ron Cox is an OSU Extension family and marriage specialist. He says the workshop is designed to help these young students understand, well, the realities of adulthood.
Right, so all the different tables, all the different volunteers, are different stations like their insurance or it's housing or it's cars or it's entertainment. There's even a chance, right, where you can get in an accident and have to go to the hospital, or you get a bonus because you hit the lottery or something like that. But different things that happen to help kids understand the value of a dollar, how to make a budget, but also the importance of education.
This workshop is a piece of a broader outreach program for minority families that aims to increase parental involvement in schools, academic achievement and self-sufficiency, and reinforce positive relationships to limit negative behaviors.
It's called United We Can, or in Spanish, Unidos Se Puede. So you can't really tell a kid who to be friends with, but if you can create activities so they're together, they're having fun, they just naturally start bonding. But it's with kids who are all in a program, all kind of going in a positive direction. So you see these kids behind us are having a great time. They're at the same time that they're learning about finances, they're forming relationships with each other, right? Those relationships help promote the positive kind of behavior and attitudes that we want to see in kids that will lead them to success.
Before the reality check workshop, students who are all from Tulsa Public Schools got the chance to tour the OSU campus and learn about various career paths offered at the university. And that chance made participant Milton Hamilton's day.
Going to different places and learning about new jobs, like new opportunities you probably never thought of. It's been pretty fun most of the time. We got to go to different places. Time to time we got to relax, like during the yoga session.
For the reality check workshop, each student is given a worksheet detailing their adult self's lifestyle and occupation. Whether they're a single construction worker making about $35,000 a year or the sole income provider of a family of 4, just about every scenario is on the table. For Ruby Escalera, her exercise was a little, frustrating.
So we're supposed to be simulating what's it like living as an adult, and I'm not very happy because my husband doesn't do anything. Why do I have to pay for everything? Why can't I have a second income? I have 2 incomes. It's a 2-income family. Why do I have to pay for everything?
The challenges of being an adult, I guess.
Why would I marry a deadbeat? Why did this game think so low of me?
When I start going through something like this, I get a much better understanding of what my parents have been going through, day after day, week after week, month after month, taking care of me. So it gives me a whole new perspective of how to appreciate my parents, which then can have impact on the family cohesion.
It also makes them think about something else, their future.
Learn my priorities. Don't be a correctional officer. I don't want to work in a prison. I make no money. Do the right thing and don't have kids. God forbid, my poor friend is a single mother, and broke.
In Payne County, I'm Curtis Hare.
We travel back to Muskogee County now to shop at a mobile market. Sunup's Seth Fish put together this story.
Today we're at Haskell. We're at the public library. This is just one of the markets, one of the 6 markets we do in Muskogee County. We try to keep them rural. It's for our rural residents because they don't have access to the same food that people do that live in the bigger cities and towns. So that was one of the main reasons why we started doing the farmers markets, was to bring it out here. Well, EODD, Area Agency on Aging, we work with just seniors, 60 and older. We are a senior citizen resource service. We started this because we were tasked with fighting social isolation since the pandemic. And we teamed up with HONA and we teamed up with TSET because this was just a good way to fight the isolation, bring in nutritious food and access to fresh produce.
Acorn squash as new item.
We teamed up with OSU Extension, I think last year was when we started in the spring. And then it's just grown since then. Where we could barely scrounge 5 to 10 people now, like here we have a wait list. We have a waiting list for this one usually. And they get here first thing in the morning, they're out before anyone even knows we're here 9 times out of 10.
So thankfully we have a great relationship with farmers. We've been working with them since 2018. Also, we've made a partnership with Langston University and their research that they're doing in their horticulture center. And so we're able to procure vegetables from them as well in order to redistribute to food desert areas throughout the state.
Partnership's amazing. We have such great synergy within these partnerships. I think it's one of those things where I've actually never been involved with community partners that have worked this well together. I've worked with community partners and other entities that were wonderful. We know it's important bringing fresh fruits and vegetables and produce to communities that may not have. Some of the communities that we reach don't have a local grocery store at all, but everyone deserves the right to have access to fresh fruits and vegetables that are affordable. And I mean, honestly, if we were talking about the big scheme of life, there's not many things more important than that.
Oh, just the camaraderie that's built through food, right? So it's a high access, low stigma point, and so we're really able to distribute other information as well besides just nutrition education.
I think it's the social aspect in the sense, like I said, they get to come out and they come, you know, they ride 3 or 4 in a car sometimes and come out here and they hang out and they talk. And then also, we're not pre-assembling anything. We're not saying, here, take this food, you get to choose what you want. If you want the beef, if you don't like this, okay, you don't have to take that, you pick what you want. And I think they like that more as just giving them a box and saying, here, take this and have a good day.
Absolutely. I'm sure you saw today how some of the people just really appreciate and love the fact that we're here. They are coming out. Some of them, it's probably difficult for them to make it here. Maybe they don't have transportation, maybe they can't get around very well, but they are making an effort to be here. And most of them probably really need this service. And so to see the look on their faces, I mean, that's the best part, but really there's no bad part about it.
Well, this is a very good program because it doesn't only just provide us with vegetables and meat. You know, we get the fellowship with the young people, and they're all so nice. We just love it. We love coming here and fellowshipping with people and getting freebies while we're at it.
And now part 2 of this week's Cow-Calf Corner. Several weeks ago, Mark talked about the importance of saving money through cost-effective feeding. And this week, he has more on the topic.
This week, we're going to take a look at if we're buying 38% range cubes at $4.75 a ton or 20% range cubes priced at $3.50 a ton, current prices, looking at those in October 2023, what we actually can save or cost ourselves by looking beyond just that price per ton. Last week, we determined that in 38% range cubes, our cost per unit of protein we're actually purchasing works out to about 62.5 cents a pound, whereas in those 20% cubes, it's going to be costing us about 87.5 cents per pound. So this week, we look at a specific instance. Let's say we've got 60 cows, they're weighing 1,300 pounds. We know that from having weighed our 4 to 7-year-old cows at weaning to arrive at that average mature weight. We take a look at Chapter 16 in the most recent edition of our Beef Cattle Manual, and we see in there that cows of that size need about 1.84 pounds of crude protein a day during the last trimester of pregnancy, and they need about 13.3 units of energy or TDN per day. Now, we're saying these cows are in good enough body condition right now at about a 5.5. We're trying to maintain them that way for about 100 days going into calving season sometime early in 2024. So, say for example we're grazing dormant native plants right now, we'd assume those cows are going to consume about 1.9 to 2% of their body weight in forage dry matter per day. What we're going to anticipate in that dormant native range is going to be about 5% crude protein and about 55% TDN. So if we take that 25 pounds a day intake, multiply it by 5% or 0.05, they're going to ingest about 1.25 pounds a day of crude protein, which is going to leave them deficient by about 0.59 pounds a day of crude protein. And we have identified a supplemental need for crude protein in order to get those cows to meet or just maintain body condition going into calving. That same 25 pounds a day intake, when we relate that to energy or TDN, they're actually going to take in about 13.75 pounds a day of energy, so they're going to meet their energy requirement. And yet, crude protein has become the limiting factor, and we know we've got to supplement in order to meet that need. So that 0.59 pounds a day we need, we're just going to round it off to 0.6. Those 20% cubes, it's going to take about 3 pounds of them a day supplemented to meet this nutritional requirement. That 0.6 of a pound a day nutritional protein requirement we've got to meet, those 20% range cubes are costing us about 87.5 cents a pound of protein. We're going to be at a cost of 52 cents a day to supplement those cows. We take the 60 cows, multiply by that. We take the 100 days we've got to supplement into account and multiply by that. We're going to cost about $3,120 over the next 100 days, meeting that supplemental need for crude protein with 20% range cubes. Now, by that same token, last week we determined that the 38% cubes are costing us about 62.5 cents a day per unit of protein purchased. We're going to have to feed about 1.58 pounds of those a day at 38% to meet that 0.6 of a pound a day nutritional deficit. That 0.6 multiplied by 0.625 means it's going to cost us 37 cents a day. Multiply that by the 60 cows, multiply that by the 100 days, we're going to have a cost of $2,220, meeting that supplemental need for protein from feeding the 38% range cubes. The difference is about $900 that we save by breaking down feedstuffs purchased by unit of crude protein or energy content. The situation we're working through, we need to supplement energy. Our most cost-effective means of doing that is using those 38% cubes priced at $4.75 a ton because they're less expensive on a per unit of crude protein we're purchasing. I hope this helps, and thanks for joining us this week on Cow-Calf Corner.
There's our old garden seed counter over there.
It's hard for Steve Calhoun to walk through Ross Seed Company and not be jolted with memories.
And you can come in here and buy 1 scoop of cucumbers for $1.25.
But working for 50 years in the same shop will do that to you. Steve, who now manages the seed company, spends his days with paperwork and giving guidance to fellow producers who have questions about their operations.
Mr. Calhoun, what's up? Been easy. What are you up to?
Wait about a week to plant some of that seed in.
Let's wait a week or so and see. The only thing I'm concerned about is still a little cool. I'd like you to wait. Maybe they're talking like we might get some rain.
Yeah.
I'd like you to wait another week or two if you could.
Okay, I can.
All right. I think.
And Steve knows all about waiting on the rain. Aside from his day job at Ross Seed Company, Steve is a cattle and wheat producer. He says one verb that would best describe how his wheat crop is doing right now: teetering.
Well, right now it's in pretty good shape. We had about an inch of rain here a month ago, and it really helped it out. But we haven't had any rain since, and so it's kind of starting to get a blue cast to it, which is a stress type situation. We're hoping we may get some rain this week. There's a possibility because we're concerned about the test weight and filling it out. Well, really, we kind of had a pretty good crop last year. This field that I'm standing in last year, of course, it's bottomland, but it made 70 bushel, and I was very pleased. I had some upland wheat that didn't do very well. It made about 20 bushel, so you can kind of see the difference, the drought. So we're starting to deal with that again this year.
Some of the fields look pretty good. Some of them are really stressed, struggling. They probably are not going to make any yield at all.
Denise Wood is the Grady County OSU Extension Ag Educator. She says how the crop is looking in the county right now really depends on which side of Highway 44 you're on.
Especially in certain areas. I mean, we need rain all across Grady County, but we were in like Minco 8 inches behind the curve there on the drought conditions. So looking at 8 inches when you're dealing with a crop is pretty drastic.
The field of Steve's we just saw looks pretty good, but come a few miles west of I-44, you can really see how stressed this crop is.
Don't get me wrong, we're blessed. We're on that line. You go west of here, and these people are really hurting and suffering. Mark Johnson come and talk to us about the cattle situation, and the ponds are drying up out west. We're in a little bit better shape than they are. We're not great, but we're in better shape than they are further to the west of us.
Although Steve is grateful for the condition his crop is currently in, if it doesn't rain here in the next few days, decisions will have to be made.
If we don't get a rain this week, we'll probably be looking at something else. We were looking at this field a little earlier, and it's starting to put a head out. So if we do it for hay, we're gonna have to do it pretty quick.
But regardless, when you've been farming as long as Steve has, you try not to focus too much on the negatives. If the sky doesn't cry soon, well, at least he'll have some hay for his cattle. You take what you can get. That's farming.
You know, farming is an up and down deal. One year is complete, and you really can't judge it from one year to the next. You just got to take it year by year. It's got to be in your blood. It is. My family's been farming for over 100 years, and so anyway, it's got to be in your blood.
In Grady County, I'm Curtis Hare.
Finally, today, we find out what makes John Newell such a champion of OSU agriculture. Video production manager Craig Woods put together our story.
I was born here in St. Louis and lived here till I was in 7th grade. My father died when I was very young, so my mother was having a hard time making a go of it here, so we moved to Oklahoma where we had relatives.
John and his mother moved to Enid, where he found a refuge in science and math courses.
I was always into that. I was the kind of kid who would take the clock apart and never quite get it back together.
He decided to major in chemistry at Oklahoma State University. He would go on to work for a graduate degree in biochemistry with a research lab at Whitehurst. But he was also on the infamous softball team started by fellow biochemist and Ag Honors recipient Arlen Richardson.
At first we were kind of a ragtag group, and we sort of played softball to get thirsty to go down to the Anchor Inn. But the last year I was there in '67, we actually won the championship.
John completed his PhD in 1967 with a dissertation on the flavoring of roasted peanuts. Later that same year, he started his 30-year career as a research scientist with Anheuser-Busch.
I was always the guy who had to become the instant expert, so I would go to the library and try to figure out what was going on in some area that they were interested in working on. So that was kind of fun too.
One of the biggest projects for him was creating a yeast extract that could be used as a flavoring in other foods.
The projects I was on, sort of from the get-go, was to figure out something to do with the spent yeast and the brewer's grains and other things that were side products from the beer.
The product John and his team developed resulted in a new product with more than $9 million a year in sales.
He went on and looked at autolyzed yeast extract, which is what gives food its umami flavoring. So you find it in bouillons, you find it in such a variety of prepared foods. It's incredibly important.
John also worked with the Eagle Snack brand and Anheuser-Busch to develop products including honey roasted peanut butter.
It was a technical feat to get this stuff to actually mix and to look like peanut butter. But once that hurdle was cleared, then we could make this honey roast peanut butter that tastes like honey roast peanuts.
John also helped manage his family's real estate business, even returning to college in the 90s for a bachelor's degree in business from Webster University. Through it all, he indulged in a lifelong love of cars and motorcycles.
A couple of my friends, also PhDs, rode motorcycles, and they'd get together on the weekends and take a ride and have breakfast or something, and they said, "You got to come with us." So here we had this motorcycle gang of 3 PhDs.
And when his old softball team teammate Arlen Richardson created scholarships to support the department, John was inspired. The John A. Newell Endowed Fund supports student recruitment, research, and travel to scientific conferences. John also endowed a scholarship which specifically supports women in biochemistry.
Well, it's important because in the STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and math, we don't have a lot of women leaders or women entering these disciplines. It's changing, and it's John's scholarship will definitively have an impact on getting more women enticed to come and work in biochemistry and molecular biology.
From his meager beginnings in Enid, Oklahoma, John has had a wonderful and outstanding career. And it's great to see through his endowments and support that he's been able to bring people into biochemistry, support students, both at the undergraduate and graduate level, and it really engender excitement and enthusiasm about the kind of work that happens in biochemistry.
Celebrating Dr. John Newell, 2023 champion for OSU Agriculture.
That'll do it for our show this week. Remember, you can see us anytime at sunup.okstate.edu and also follow us on YouTube and social media. We are so very thankful for you, our SunUp viewers. I'm Lyndall Stout. We'll see you next time at SunUp.